Everybody, video here for you today. I believe this is my 32nd installment of Ancient History News, where I look at 5 ancient history news stories from around the world. It's a good chance for me to look at sites that maybe I have never made a video on, or something new that was just discovered. But before I start, I want to say this. I want to say happy birthday to Ddendyl. She has been part of my channel for almost 5 years now. We did a video the other night, and I will leave the link below for that. And also, this is an interview we did about a year and a half ago if you want to get to know her a little bit. But I am proud to feature her on my channel. Just a good friend and a very talented person. Now, the ancient history news stories. Let's go down to the island of Korcula in Croatia. This is the first story. Something was found just offshore down here. And it is located, I believe I have located this correctly, right down here offshore. This little bit of land you can see just below the surface. They made some discoveries down here. Let's go over to an article. I will leave all these links below if you want to check this out, but here is that area where they made the discovery. Here is them diving on the site. This is a pretty interesting find. The sea levels changed over the centuries, that is for sure, especially in the Mediterranean. But let's just go a little farther ahead here. More looks of them underwater, noting stuff. I guess a lot of walls and artifacts have been found down here. But once again, I will leave this link below if you want to watch. There is so much history waiting to be discovered underwater. It says Prick and colleague decided to dive at the site and discovered what they believe is a Neolithic settlement from around 4,500 years BC, built on a small piece of land that was connected to the main island by a narrow strip. The pair found the remains of stone walls which had surrounded the settlement, as well as tools and other objects used by the inhabitants. But here are some artifacts, them diving at the site, laying out grids for their archaeological work. And this photo was taken June 4th. Here is another site, them diving on this settlement under the water off the coast of Croatia. Pretty interesting, but let's move on. Next story, let's go over to Turkey. This is a story that came out, and I was not familiar with the site. I've never talked about it, so that's what I'm doing today. Story just came out recently. This is called Stratonikeia, or something like that, and it's right down here. The ruins of this ancient place are right in this area here. They have done some restoration on the gateway to this ancient Greek city right there. And just like a lot of these places in Greece and Turkey, there is a large amphitheater right there that probably seats many thousands of people. Here's a story that came out about 10 days ago or so. Northern gate of ancient Greek city Stratonikeia, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, restored by Turkish authorities. And I looked on Google Earth, and these gateways were pretty much in ruins, this area was. But they have restored it here, and you can get a hint of what this place was like a long time ago. Just reading a little here, it says the ancient Greek city, which is on the UNESCO World Heritage Tentative List, is located in southwestern Turkey and was founded by the King Antiochus I Soter about 2,100 years ago, who named it after his wife, Stratonikeia. As part of the restoration efforts, the northern gate and the columns in the square facing the entrance of the city have been raised again after being destroyed in an earthquake around 139 AD. Professor Bilal Soget, director of excavations, stated that Stratonikeia was the world's largest marble city and that they started work on the northern city gate about 2 years ago. He also said that excavation and restoration works were not only conducted on the northern gate, but also the West Street, the theater, the village square, and newly discovered areas of the ancient city. But that'll give you a look at a place I've never talked about, an ancient Greek city. Amphitheater, the gates just restored. Here is a look at the amphitheater in this ancient Greek city. Pretty interesting place. Ancient ruins, still looking pretty good shape today. Let's move on. Next story, I always try to include one very, very ancient history news story in these reports. But let's talk about a find that was made somewhere right down here. Here's a story that many websites covered. This comes from 3 days ago. A previously unknown type of ancient human has been discovered in the Levant. More than 120,000 years ago in the Levant, Homo sapiens lived side by side with the type of ancient human we didn't know about until now. That's according to new fossil evidence of this human uncovered by archaeologists, fragments of an ancient skull and jawbones and teeth that seem to fit both Neanderthal and Homo sapiens, but also neither. This newly discovered hominin type could be the ancestor to Neanderthal populations in Europe, answering the mystery of how these populations were infiltrated with H. sapiens DNA before their arrival in those regions. Here's another website that covered this story, the Nesher Ramla hominin. The Nesher Ramla hominins lived between 420,000 and 120,000 years ago in the Middle East. It says they were efficient hunters of large and small game, used wood for fuel, cooked and roasted meat, and maintained fires, but a history here going way, way back. Archaeologists have called the new ancient human the Nesher Ramla people after the archaeological dig site in Israel where they were discovered. And here, this is a brand new Wikipedia page. I think this was only created about an hour ago, or that was the last time it was updated, but it gives the location here, Nesher Ramla, where this ancient skull and other things were discovered. Very interesting story. We are still writing the history of ourselves based on new discoveries. Let's move on. Next story has a lot to do with ancient America, ceremonial effigy pipe, things I have mentioned a lot in my videos, especially on the Adena people here. Let's go over to a story that came out a few days ago. This is physics.org. The story came out about 4 days ago. Use of tobacco pipes by native group tells story of regional diversity. And these were carved to look like birds, different animals, and I'm sure they all had symbolic meaning in some way. Here it says a sterling pipestone effigy pipe of a bird pecking a human face. The pipe was found in Pike County, Illinois. 19th and 20th century archaeologists often made sweeping claims about native culture, suggesting that everyone who lived in a particular region at a given time shared the same attitudes and practices. A new study of pipes recovered from Hopewell sites in Illinois and Ohio challenges this assumption, revealing that the manufacture, import, export, and use of pipestone pipes for smoking varied significantly between groups, even though they engaged in trade with one another. Here is a very well-made effigy pipe made to represent an otter and swimming animals. Animals that dove down in the water had special meaning to these people, these early cultures. It says these regional gathering places revolved around some sort of religious or ritual activity as the center that held them together, and these were very spiritual people. It says Hopewell people used pipes carved from various types of sedimentary stone collected from quarries across the region. The pipes were used for smoking tobacco and probably other plants. Well, like people from all different time periods, they certainly smoked cannabis. They studied pipes found on the Illinois River and some other Hopewell sites. About half of these came from a quarry in northern Illinois. About a third of them came from local limestone, and the rest were transported in from much further away locations. It says in Ohio it was common to find large collections of pipes that have been broken and buried together. This suggests an organized communal rite. And there is a bare effigy pipe. What they did is they put a bowl in at the top and then placed a small hole where you could put stems in, reusable stems. So they were pretty efficient. Here's a website I used in my mound builder and effigy pipe video. There's a look at some other effigy pipes, but it says 400 BC, Hopewell tradition, mound builders smoke marijuana and produce hemp fabric. So they were just taking advantage of a very useful plant like we do today. But that was based on residue found in these ancient pipes, what you might want to call 2,000-year-old resin. Maybe that's why they were using the disposable stems, just because they were smoking some sticky bud. Sites that I have talked about in Ohio, like the Tremper Mound site, there was many pipes found in one single location, but it says in Illinois, pipes almost always show up as single items associated with very few people. Only about 2% of the population is buried with a pipe. Most pipe-related burials involve men, but pipes were also found buried with women, and in 2 cases, children. Other pipes were found in home sites. Some of them had been broken and repaired for continual use, but this is an interesting story. These effigy pipes obviously had important meaning. Let's move on. Now, before I move on to my final story, here is one website I will leave the link to below. What you might assume is ancient just might not be ancient. People in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, thought this was an ancient monolith coming from some remote period of history. What did it turn out to be? Well, it turned out to be a butt-scratching post for cows. So, just thought I'd throw that one in there. Final story, let's go down to Japan. Not sure where this discovery was made, but a pretty fascinating tale here. I saw this on a few different websites. It says on this one here, researchers uncover remains of 3,000-year-old shark attack victim in Japan. It says the grim discovery was made by researchers examining the remains of prehistoric hunter-gatherers at Kyoto University in Japan. In this story that just came out yesterday, and I hope the noise out by the pool isn't interfering with this video, it says the findings published in the Journal of Archaeological Science reports reveal the man suffered almost 800 deep serrated injuries, mostly to his arms, legs, chest, and abdomen. They were mystified. What could have caused this? There were so many injuries, and yet he was buried in the community burial ground, a shell mound cemetery site. When the injuries didn't line up with those expected from human conflict, the duo turned to forensic shark attack cases for clues, and they think it was either a white or tiger shark that inflicted these injuries. Here's another story coming from 3 days ago. 3,000-year-old bones reveal the oldest shark encounter victim ever discovered. It says the risk of death from an encounter with the shark may be grossly exaggerated in popular culture, but that's likely small consolation to a man who lived and died 3,000 years ago. His remains now represent the oldest known shark victim ever found, and down here they have a little more detailed look at his injuries. They counted 800 injuries on his body. Looks like he might have lost a leg. But that is certainly a very interesting story, and what this man went through, it'd be hard to imagine. It says the lesions on the bones of the man, known only as Tsukumu 24, were certainly curious. They were sharp-edged and curved, which researchers found inconsistent with bone tools used at the time. In addition, his left hand and right leg were missing, and his left leg had been placed on top of his body in an inverted position for burial. But I think I will wrap it up there on that note. Shark attack victim, 3,000 years old. And they kind of narrowed the dating down to roughly about 1200 BC when this man was alive. But those are 5 ancient history news stories coming from around the world. Those of you going swimming in the ocean today at the beach, well, hope you enjoy your day. But I think I will wrap it up there. Hope you thought that was cool. And you all have a very nice day.